to reality perceives the Dharma, and whoever perceives the Dharma perceives the Buddha. If we were to approach this scripture from the perspective of the Nagarjuna's teachings of Madhyamaka school, then one could say that we can arrive at perhaps the most comprehensive understanding of the sort of implications of that statement. So when it comes to talking about the philosophical viewpoints of Nagarjuna, even if people were to criticize me that I'm perhaps biased towards it, I would certainly accept that criticism.
Today, this is the tension of Joan Sidatelia. The petit sadigi, the tempest, Sumupan said Joan. That tension of Joans. That the tension of Joan Sidadigi, Niala, Tum Hoa de Careslamna. Do the can la dene, do the can some la dene Joan. That do you intend
So, when we try to understand this fundamental Buddhist philosophical principle of pratitha samuppada, dependent origination, the understanding of this principle that is common to all Buddhist schools is in terms of causal dependence. Pratit means to depend on, and samupada refers to origination. And the understanding that is common to all the Buddhist schools of thought is to look at this principle in terms of the causal dependence, to appreciate and to understand that all things and events come into being only as a result of interaction of causes and various causes and conditions.
That digi implication has la veina. Asol bge ji duishin chebe chedi tamjalo du mebal chuwa mares. Ene chebabe loyo ngondo sana tone cheba mares. Du da gen zamla dene ene juare sa de sheyore.
The significance of making this statement that all conditioned things come into being purely as a result of causes and conditions is to deny two possibilities. One is the possibility that they can come into being from nowhere with no causes and conditions, causelessly. So that is one possibility that is being negated. And the second possibility that is being negated is that perhaps these things can come into being as a result of a transcendent sort of designer or a creator.
Tadine tenjung thanda nibat jikdi sukjengi chejibina ene charge che asore charge charging starjita ene suk mabes me인니 지 셰바도 우리 집 me인니 계신지 ene 차도 째데 근데 전에 도든 ene 셔가다 가이나요 ene 차도 째버리스 근데 인도산에 차쟁이 최대 차를 때는 다셔서 that magic shape.
However, there is another dimension to this, to the understanding of this principle. That is to say, to understand principle of dependent origination in terms of parts and whole, the concept of parts and whole, how all physical objects, material objects, can be understood in terms of how parts compose a whole, and how the very idea of, very concept of wholeness depends upon the existence of parts. So there is that dependence in the physical world. And similarly, in the case of non-physical entities like consciousness, then you can look at these entities in terms of their temporal sequences, how unity, the very idea of unity and wholeness is dependent upon successive sequences that compose a continuum or a wholeness. So So when you look at the reality or universe in these terms, then not only can you understand all conditioned things as dependently originated, but also the entire phenomena could be understood in terms of this principle of dependent origination.
다들 숨버시리야 아니 척하다 가이네 다들잖아 낭좀 되면서 뭐 다들잖아 니야요 말이지 아니야 매버스로나 매버 말이지 오나 가르스로나 아니 척배 기하소다 유진 땐지 척배 관계 아니 두대버시리 유진 땐지 다 척발을 떼네 아니 딱 섬지리 사지 쉐리요
And then there is a further dimension to the meaning of this principle of dependent origination, which is to say that all things and events, in fact everything, comes into being purely as a result of mere aggregation of the many factors. And whereas when you analyze
other factors,
there is an understanding that it is simply in dependence upon others that they came into being, that they lack any independent or intrinsic identity or intrinsic existence. There is no autonomous existence or identity to anything. And the identity and existence that we perceive of things are, in some sense, contingent, which comes into being as a result of an interaction between our perception and the existence of the reality itself. However, this is not to say that things do not exist, but they do exist. But what is the case is that they do not exist with independent autonomous realities.
다 땡중사디 그냥 고아지 가서래 거둔 드듯이 다 대대비 땡중기 통나 최 통불이 있어야 최대 그들 쓰고 왔으나 다 최대蒙古샤고문도 성도蒙古중문도 성기 규진 잠을 때네 봐 규진 잠을 때네 중에 땡중 통나 아니 디두기 다가다 디두기 패널 여등이 아니 패널 여등이 뒤에 규진 때네 연구여 되시 셴니 아니 동네 다가다 디두기 디두 용야게 다 탑시 지야 될이야 디두 동네 마용야다 대화 용야게 탑시 지야 돼 아니 규진을 때는 로고야게 딘데기 다 레줌제기 최시도 와 레줌제기 최디 될 때는 통투야시도 와.
So, corresponding to these three different sort of dimensions or three different levels of meaning of the principle of dependent origination, one can also read three different meanings into this concept of dharma, because referring back to the statement again, to say that seeing dependent origination leads to the seeing of the dharma. So here, if we were to relate to the first level of meaning of dependent origination, which is in terms of causal dependence, by developing a deep understanding of interdependent nature of reality in terms of causal dependence, then one will be able to appreciate the workings of the karma, the karmic law, how experiences of pain and suffering comes into being as a result of negative actions and negative thoughts and behavior. Similarly, how sort of desirable experiences such as happiness and joy come into being as a result of causes and conditions that corresponds to that, such as positive actions and positive emotions and thoughts. So, by understanding the principle of dependent origination in causal terms, one will be able to develop a deep understanding of the law of karma.
다가